Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday night. We are so privileged that you are here, and thanks as always to our community partners who have made it possible for us to be here each and every week. Shepherd Community Center, Prime 47 Downtown, and Tesco. The support of those wonderful organizations makes it possible for us to join our friends at WHMB TV 40 every Thursday night at 9:30. Well, this is a special week on our show because it is a special week in Indianapolis, maybe the best week of the year. I know a lot of people would say that. It's Indy 500 week, and tonight we have two special guests with us, Doug Hardwick and Kimble Richardson from the Indianapolis 500 Gordon Pipers and the Horseshoe Pipes and Drums. Doug, you are the president of this organization. Kimble, thank you very much for joining us. This is a big week for all of Indianapolis, but for you guys as well, Doug.
Oh yes, we participate in most of the events out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway race weekend, marching around the place. We'll put in close to 12 miles just marching race morning and events around it. So it's quite an event. You got to be in shape for it.
Right.
We love it. We just love it. It's May. Finally, it's May, and it's warm.
I know. It is nice when those two things finally come together.
Yes, sir.
April was not a whole lot of fun.
No, it was not.
We're gonna have a real special treat for you. Doug is gonna play the pipes here in a few minutes, and we'll talk more about the band, the history of it, how you both got linked together. But you both have a connection to mental health. Kimble, let me ask you, you're with the Community Health Network in behavioral health.
Right.
So you're in that space, in those weeds, day in, day out. What are you seeing in our community as we kind of come out of the pandemic, the state of the world through your eyes? Give it to us.
Well, it's been overwhelming, as you can imagine. And although we are seeing some reprieve from some of the effects of the physical effects of the pandemic and everything that's been going on, the mental health effects are surging. And we're seeing that in overwhelming waves. Now, there's good and bad with that. The good thing is that people are asking for help, which is what we want people to do.
Right.
If you need it, please ask for it. The challenge is the capacity. And we really are trying to think of creative ways to get people that assistance.
The fact that, unlike so many physical things are obvious to everyone else, the mental stuff is easier to hide.
Yep.
Are people still really good at hiding it, or are we getting better at being open and transparent about these issues?
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned hide it, because I think that most people, and I'll say, really most people, but Hoosiers, when this thing first hit March 2020, we did what Hoosiers do. And we buckled down and we did what we needed to do to survive. And one of the things that most of us had to do were hide emotions, put them on the back burner and kind of turn them down or off. That's okay, it's a survival mode.
Right.
What happens then is the emotions catch up to us at some point. And when we had a little bit of reprieve, I remember in the summertime, late or early fall of 2020, and everybody's like, "Oh, COVID's going down a little bit," and I was like, "Hang on a minute, because here comes the emotional wave," and then we've just seen that, and it's continued since then.
Doug, you have lived a life where the physical and the mental and emotional are all tied together. You have gone through a lot of physical trauma. Tell us the things that you're a survivor of.
Well, I'm a 100% disabled American veteran from the United States Marine Corps, and have had several head traumas, skull fractures, have had a couple strokes because of situations that arose from that, and mental health, without help through mental health and through your church. I mean, it's a long road, and fortunately, music was there for me. And although I couldn't play the bagpipes when I was recovering, I picked up a guitar and started playing that, and that brought me back to the bagpipes. This is about 6 years ago this happened.
That connection, though, the physical and emotional, I know you've lived that out. Tell me about how the physical plays to the emotional and how connected they really are.
Well, physical pains, when you have it from my other injuries in the service, is hard to describe. You know, they want to put it on a level from 1 to 10. I've never been below 8 or 7. And you have to figure out a way to deal with that. And it's more mental. You want to stay away from the narcotics and this and that. So you have to get mentally strong. And it comes through counseling. It doesn't come from sitting back and saying, hey, I can do this by myself. But fortunately, Indianapolis is pretty good. Certainly our VA is very good at this stuff. And they helped me a lot. But yeah, injuries and PTSD and everything that goes with it is a terrible thing, but it's who you surround yourself with and the people and the help that you surround yourself with.
Kibble, I see you nodding along with just about every point Doug made. The physical, the mental, the emotional, it all interweaves together.
It does.
And they're all connected so tightly.
You know, I think that physical health is mental health. Mental health is physical health. And I think it's important to add a spiritual component in there. I call it the trifecta of health, you know, mind, body, and spirit. And all of those things are important. If you overlook one, you're still affecting, you don't have a whole, in other words, so.
I also saw you nodding along when Doug was talking about being surrounded by people and being in community with each other. That seems critical for all of us, no matter where we are on the mental, emotional, spiritual spectrum, wherever we are,
100%.
Community is so vital.
And I don't know if he knew this when he was saying it, but social support is one of the key factors in keeping people resilient, according to research. And it is especially important for people, they say over 65. That's looking younger to me, you know what I mean? The older I get,
do
but
know what
anyway,
you mean.
right? But at any age, really, it's true. And that doesn't have to mean, with social support, doesn't have to mean 10, 20, 30, 40 people. It means one at least. One person that you can talk to and that you trust.
Well, we are in for a real treat. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Doug is going to play for us, and we're going to talk about one of the great traditions in Indianapolis here on Race Week. Stay with us on Restoring Hope. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Restoring Hope. I'm Curtis Smith. It is so good to be joined by both Doug Hardwick and Kimble Richardson today from the Indianapolis 500 Gordon Pipers, and we are in for a serious treat. You might want to turn the volume on your TV down just a hair. Don't turn it all the way off, though, because you're going to really enjoy this. Doug is going to play for us. So, Doug, the stage is yours. Let's hear what you got. Wow. I feel like applauding. That was amazing.
Thank you very much.
Kimble, I could see that you really wanted to have a drum in your hand.
my
You were
gosh,
playing
that
along.
Right.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's talk about the Indianapolis 500 Gordon Pipers. You guys are one of the great traditions in Indianapolis. Doug, you've been the president for some 25 years or so.
Yes, sir.
But been a member of the band for a few more years than that.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about the origin of the band, how long you've been with them, and all of that.
The Indianapolis 500 Gordon Pipers were formed in 1962 by a veterinarian named Dr. Wallace Gordon Deal, who had a Blue Cross Animal Hospital downtown, and was a member of the Murat Shrine Pipe Band, which required you to be over 6'2" and to be a male. And he had daughters and had seen the Highland Fling and Scotland and wanted to make a family band. So they came up, it was February 14th, 1962, and they decided to call it the Gordon Pipers to honor Dr. Wallace Gordon Deal. And we would also, the Pipers would wear Gordon kilts, and the drummers, if you look at Kimble's bow tie, is Wallace, and they'd wear the Wallace. So we honored Doc with the Wallace Gordon Deal.
Nice.
In late 1962, they were at five of them were in Terre Haute at a car show. Tony Holman saw them, knowing that he was bringing Jimmy Clark and Jackie Stewart and Jack Brabham and other Europeans to Indianapolis next year. He thought it'd be a good idea to have something kind of European. So he invited the Pipers to come out to opening day, the qualifying days, and race day. And of course, Jimmy Clark was Rookie of the Year. Dr. Deal presented the Rookie of the Year trophy to Jimmy. And at that time, we were known as the Gasoline Alley Pipers. And later that night, Tony Holman declared that we would be called the Indianapolis 500 Gordon Pipers, and we would be at the 500 representing the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, that started in 1963. This is our 59th year with that. We have 4 Pipers that are in victory lane every year to denote the car coming back safely on 4 wheels. That started in 1967. Many traditions, many friends, fans,
And you've been with the band since 1969.
Yes, sir. I joined the band in 1969. I was at Pike High School and grew up near the Deal family out by the pyramids. They weren't there then, it was cornfields. And always wanted to join the band. And one night I went to the night before the 500 party, and they had Tony Holman there and Dan Blocker and you know, Lauren Green and you know, just so many famous people. And I went, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So I joined it, and then I went into the military and took my bagpipes with me that took me a lot of places. I've ended up playing for 5 presidents.
Wow.
Played at Arlington National Cemetery, always representing the Indianapolis 500 Gordon Pipers, and always knowing that we're ambassadors for the city, for the event that's out there in the state of Indiana, and we take pride in that.
That's amazing.
And I've been doing it since 1969, and I'm 67 and I really enjoy it, and I know God's looking over me. I've got 4 stints in me and had a lot of injuries in the service, and I get to do this occasionally.
That is so good. Kimble, you have become a more recent member. Tell us about your path to join the Gordon Pipers.
Well, I feel like such a newbie, although I've been in the band for 8 years now. You know, I've been a drummer percussionist since I was in grade school. I'm in other bands, and that's how I got into this band. Somebody said, hey, we could use a couple extra drummers for one of the Colts games. This was in the fall of 2014. And I said, hey, I'm available that day. Who doesn't want to go to a Colts game?
Right,
you know,
right.
And play. And it was, when I came home with all my gear, my kilt, my hat, my drum, my wife's like, what did you just do? Because I tend to be a little overcommitted in my life with different things. But I was like, no, I'm doing this. It's so fun. It's a family. It's just like Doug says. And just, I feel a little choked up, wearing this tie. I know that belonged to Doc Deal. I'm so proud to represent his vision and interest and love of music and a love of our city.
And Kimble, nothing better than race day, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it just gives me chills to think about. We have to get up at about 3:30. We get there at 5. But you're there, you hear the boom go off, like we're opening the gates and it's on. And you are just you're hyped. I don't even get tired of it. He's right. We probably march 10, 12 miles that day. And
That
you
is
almost
awesome.
don't feel it because it's so fun.
Thank you both so much for joining us. This is such a great tradition in Indianapolis. Thank you for playing, Doug. This Sunday at the race and this fall at the Colts games, you'll see Doug and Kimble. Thank you both, and thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Wow, I'm still reeling from that performance. You know, each week here on Restoring Hope, we focus on the word hope. Tonight in our Beacon of Hope segment, Crosswinds chaplain Will Gross is going to share on the topic at the core of Christianity, the resurrection.
Hi, I'm Will Gross, a chaplain for Crosswinds. Today's message of hope is a foundational Christian truth, the resurrection. Now, I realize it's not Easter, but it is warmer outside, right? We're thinking about spring at least. But the resurrection is foundational for the Christian faith. Now, as we recall the resurrection, Jesus, Son of God, came to earth as a man, lived without sin, and died. And after 3 days, rose from the dead. The gospel in a nutshell, right? It's really important to our faith. But how important is that resurrection piece? It seems to be the last part of this story. Let me read you the words of Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 when he talks about the resurrection. He says this, "Now let me ask you something profound, yet troubling. If you became believers because you trusted the proclamation that Christ is alive, risen from the dead, how can you let people say there's no such thing as a resurrection? If there's no resurrection, there's no living Christ. And face it, if there's no resurrection for Christ, everything we've told you is smoke and mirrors. And everything you've staked your life on is smoke and mirrors. Not only that, but we would be guilty of telling a string of barefaced lies about God. All these affidavits we passed on to you, verifying that God raised up Christ, sheer fabrications, if there is no resurrection." So Jesus' whole life, everything we talk about Jesus doesn't matter if he didn't raise from the dead. If Jesus didn't raise from the dead, that means you and I cannot be raised from the dead in the last days when he returns. So if you're looking for a message of hope, Jesus rose from the dead and offers us that same promise. And that is the message of hope.
Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. Each week in our Counseling Corner segment, we meet one of the counselors at Crosswinds Counseling. Tonight, Grant Anderson is with us, and he's going to share his thoughts on one of the hottest topics out there, taking care of yourself.
Hi, my name is Grant Anderson, a therapist with Crosswinds Counseling. I just wanted to share a little bit to you about the importance of taking care of ourselves. And I wanted to share a little bit with a story. This story actually comes from a man named Tim Elmore, and it's called The Starving Baker. And so there once was this baker who loved baking breads and pastries and cakes. And he was constantly busy running around, giving out all these breads and these pastries, and people started to notice that this baker was skin and bones. He was a very skinny man, and there was not much on him. And they wondered, with him being a baker, why was he so skinny? And as they eventually got to know him and understand what was going on, what they realized is something very important, and that is he was so busy serving others and giving others all the breads and the baking that he wasn't actually feeding himself. Now, why is this story important when we talk about self-care? Because so often in our lives, we do the same thing. We're so busy with taking care of our kids, our families, our spouses, our work expectations that we forget to take care of ourselves. And we can become like that starving baker. And if we're not feeding ourselves, we can't feed others. And so when you wake up in the morning and you are planning your day and you're thinking about all the different tasks and all the different responsibilities that you've got going on, try to think through, how am I fitting in how I'm going to feed myself? What am I going to do to take care of myself today? Am I going to go for a run? Am I going to read? Am I going to take a bath? Am I going to go talk with a good friend? what am I actually doing today that's going to help me be who I would like to be so that I can in turn then feed others? My encouragement would be to you, take care of yourself, making sure that you are understanding your needs, and don't be like that starving baker. Because if we forget to take care of ourselves, eventually we will starve.
Thanks, Will. A powerful message for us tonight. As we come to a close tonight, I want to take a moment and remind you that we need counselors and therapists more than ever. If you're looking for a job or know someone who is, please check out crosswindscounseling.org/careers. We have openings right now. Again, crosswindscounseling.org/careers. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and a big thanks again to our sponsors, Tesco, Shepherd Community Center, and Prime 47 downtown. And of course, thanks to our friends here at WHMB TV 40. We'll see you next week right here, Thursday night at 9:30. Stay safe and be blessed.